I'm gonna play this. Okay, okay. Welcome to Spark Your Story podcast. Here we have special guest Vinny Langdon III. Vinny, tell us a little bit about your backstory, where you came from, how you got started, why you got started. What kind of drove you to do what you do?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. I think this is going to be a fun platform for people like myself to be able to hop on here and tell our stories. Yeah, my name is Vinny Langdon. I'm an American actor and filmmaker. I grew up in a what you would call a small town for California, even though the population skyrocketed to about 101,000 when I got out of there. And yeah, growing up, I grew up in the 90s where my grandfather and my dad would basically on the weekends and holidays would have, the good old camcorder, recording Easter and Christmas, opening up presents. And at a young age, I just became a natural ham in front of the camera. And then, the following holiday, my grandfather would come over and he would play those videos on the TV screen. And that kind of led me to deciding at a young age what I want to do for the rest of my life. And that was basically anything that I can do with making videos, making films. And I never thought that I would make a career out of it where I'd actually get paid and make somewhat of a living doing it. So
Right on.
it's been a long journey, but it's been fun.
That's great. That's great. So currently you're residing in PA. How hard was it to finally get into the film industry where you made yourself noticed, put yourself out there? Like, tell the viewers at home that really don't know what's involved in, getting started, being a film student, or even not being a student, but wanting to start their own career.
Sure. Well, I can speak on behalf of being in the film industry for as many years as I have. And the biggest thing, just to let your viewers know about that, are interested in getting into the film industry, is what I found, it was, for my experience, was everything was a secret. I don't know what other industries, if you're a construction worker, if everything is like, you start off, you want to be a mason, you're like, how do I become a mason? And they're all like secretive about it. it
Right.
it's that way in film, and I don't know why, whether you want to be an actor or you want to be a movie director. It's, hey, especially because I started young. I was 14 years old, and I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. How do I do it? How do I make money? And sure, I had some mentors along the way who were great, but they never really gave me the answers or the easy path, And I'm still learning that today, where it's like, how do you make a video and turn around and make money off of it? Or how do you make a video and charge a client to do it? Like, I had to learn how to write invoices myself, I had to learn how to write a screenplay myself. And so I would tell people that if you are serious about this industry, you don't have to go to film school and pay thousands of dollars. You could, today we're spoiled. We have the internet. I know I personally am subscribed to probably like 20 to 40 other filmmakers or content creators, whatever you want to label them, and I'm
Right.
learning every day. It's
Of
trying to
course.
find those answers, and everyone's gonna, it's gonna differate. But so with my story, I was 14 years old. I had this mindset of I live 6 hours north of Los Angeles, and I said, you know what? When I turn 18, my 18th birthday, I'm moving to LA. I'm gonna go become a movie star. And then the reality kicked in, where I was like, no, this is not like what I want to do. I don't, I got a dosage of the fame and the celebrity life, and I thought that's not for a guy like me who, you know, um, just, yeah, it wasn't for me. So
Hmm.
my route is a little bit different. I went to a local TV station when I was 14 years old, and I knocked on the door and I was like, can I have a job? Can I work here? What can I do to, make movies and become famous or whatever the key is? And so I started, filming live telethons with old VHS broadcast cameras. I was filming Christmas tree lightings and community events. And even though that wasn't like my goal, what I wanted to do, I was just kind of open to learning pretty much anything. The first thing I ever shot was a 9/11 memorial tribute out in California,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
I showed up. I had no idea what to do. I went with like a mentor who worked at the TV station, and he said, "Go interview the police officers. Go interview the firemen. Go interview, the local leaders." And I'm like 14 years old, terrified, going like, "I have to talk to them. I have to point a
Yeah, right. I'd
microphone in
be
their
like, oh
face."
my God, 40, like, oh my God.
Yeah, so then once I filmed the video, I shot a bunch of footage. It looked pretty cool. There was flags blowing, symbolizing the 3,000 plus victims from 9/11. And it was, of course, like a touching event. But then I was like, okay, now that I filmed this and I have maybe 3 or 4 interviews, what do I do with this? Then it was, well, Vinny, you got to teach yourself how to edit. And I'm like, oh, you're not going to do it for me? So I had to learn how to do the video editing. And back then it was VHS to VHS. They had a little typewriter called a title maker. And I would put that in there and write like Vinny Show 9/11 tribute. And
Mm-hmm.
I, at that time, I had no idea what I would really wanted to do or what I wanted to become. I just was living in the moment, as people would call it. And then we fast forward a little bit, and I started getting a little bit better confidence. I started getting better at, my camera wasn't as shaky. I was doing more fancy titles, and, just learning how to basically cut and add transitions and whatnot. And then it turned into, hey, Vinny, you're really good at this. Have you ever considered about doing your own talk show? And I said, me? A talk show? I'm no Oprah Winfrey or David Letterman or Jay Leno. My name is Vinny. I don't do that, okay?
Right,
Um,
right.
but people kind of twisted my arm, and September 11th, 2004, I launched a TV show called The Vinny Langdon Show, which
Mm-hmm.
aired in San Francisco, Sacramento, and of course my hometown of Vacaville, California, where it would be a half-hour format, and I would interview, community leaders. I would interview business owners. It was a little bit what they call a magazine show, but
Okay.
what really was captivating to the audience was, you got to imagine, of like a 14-year-old version of me, like, hey, look at this goofball on TV and he's interviewing the mayor. Like, how funny is this? Because I would sit down and interview the mayor and be like, so, Mayor, what does your wife cook for you for dinner when you get off of work? Questions like that, and people would be like, who is this kid? Um, but then my sister and my family had connections with some musicians in town, and I thought, oh, musicians, that's cool, maybe I should interview them. And what I learned quickly was that everybody in the music world, whether it's your hometown or if it's like, universal, is that everybody was connected. It was, well, my brother's in a band, or we're opening up for this band, and bring your camera and we'll sneak you in backstage at the show and you could do some interviews. And I thought, oh, like, that's cool. I know nothing about music at all, or nothing about, I just listen to stuff on the radio and that's it. But long story short, I ended up interviewing bands. a website called MySpace comes out back in the early 2000s.
Ah, okay, making me
And
feel old now. All right,
yeah, so people were saying, we didn't have YouTube back then. So people were telling me, hey, Vinny, put your videos up on MySpace. And I thought, that just like learning how to film and learning how to edit, it was a whole new thing I had to learn. And
right.
so I started putting my videos on MySpace. They, like today's standards, they would be like totally pixelated. You couldn't even tell that was me doing interviews. You would just see little pixels basically on the screen. Um, and I started getting emails left and right from Sony Records, Warner Brother Records. Hey, interview these bands that we work with. We represent a band called the Jonas Brothers. Do you want to go film their concert? Paramore, the Plain White Tees, Alien Ant Farm, Anthrax, Megadeth, Slayer, and all of a sudden it started to snowball from there. And at around this time is when YouTube officially launched. And again, it was the same pressure of, "Yo, Vinny, you should put your videos up on YouTube." And I was like, "I don't want to do that. I don't think that's a good idea." Um, little did I know that's now the new norm is YouTube. Um, but so it turned into like a weekly thing where
Nice.
I would be a high school student, and when I'd get out of high school, I'd go on the computer and I'd book a band and say, I'm gonna travel an hour out to go do an interview with this band. And then on the weekend, I would upload the videos on YouTube. I would put it on the local TV station, and I did that from 2004 to like 2018. So I did over 500 episodes, and when I hit that mark, I was like, I think I did enough, like
Oh,
that's a lot.
wow. Definitely.
I know.
Now, speaking of the things that you've done, you've put together a clip. So let's take a look at that right now. So we are talking to Vinny Langdon III, writer, director, filmmaker, all around good guy, knows his way around the film industry. We are going to attempt to play a clip. So here we go. Here we go. We are going to share screen, entire screen. Okay. Can anybody see my screen?
We just see blue, but that's okay. That's
All
what
right.
happens when you do things live. But it's fun that way, right?
It is fun that way. Okay, here we go.
Oh, 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 here we go.
All right, and here's the clip. Yes. All right. We made it. How about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, a lot of good faded memories there.
You know, I gotta say that I've known you for quite some time now, and I would have to say that you are the best to work with. You are the best to talk to. You have the best creative mind that I have ever worked with in my life. The things that you come up with, the scripts and the storylines are just phenomenal. Creative brain. Love it. Love it. So I got to give you
Thanks.
credit, dude. You've done a lot.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, I think I met you earlier in the stages of our previous film festival we had in Staten Island, and you hopped on some of the Zoom meetings for the festival, the little network group calls and whatnot, and then finally met you at the film festival. And then I said, "Hey, I need some actors for a movie." You never did anything like that. You're in production of your own film, and I said, "Hey, you know what? To me, it's all about giving back. Like when I started, and I told you earlier in this podcast, is I wish I had people that like gave me not necessarily shortcuts, but were a little bit more helpful. Okay, people were like, "Go figure it out yourself," and I'm like, "Okay," looking for answers, reading an encyclopedia book, reading filmmakers for dummies. Just trying to figure out a way, and
Right.
that's what it's all about. Is helping the next group of people that want to get into this and make it a little bit easier for them. And hopefully, one day you'll turn around and you'll find someone that's like, "Hey, I want to get into acting," and then you could do the same thing and say, "I had a friend named Vinny who gave me an opportunity one time. Let me give you a chance." So it's what it's all about.
Definitely. You heard it here. Give it back. Give it back. It's all about giving back. It's all about helping each other out in this industry. Definitely. Most definitely. Now, my next question is for you, what is the most frustrating part of filmmaking that you personally have experienced or have gone through or even seen people go through?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. A lot comes to mind, but I would just say I think the biggest frustration is um, whether it's peers in the film industry or just people in your filmmaking community. There's just too much negativity, there really is, and I think that shies away from people actually doing, a project. I hear it all the time. People will say, "Hey, you know what? I want to make a movie." And I just look at them and I'm like, "Okay, what's stopping you?" And they're like, "Oh, well, I talked to this filmmaker and he told me I can't do it because that's going to cost so much money to make." Or, "Oh, I was going to make this movie, but I'm not allowed to work with this group of people, or I can't do this, or I have to have this type of camera to just get started, or I have to be editing on this platform." And I say,
Right.
"You know what? Screw that,
Oh,
because
don't worry, you can curse here. It's all good. We're good. We're good.
but yeah, no, it's just it's frustrating. Even I've dealt with it because I've been told the
Yeah.
same stuff. I've wrote a script and I'm just like, "This is my best work yet," and then
Right.
I would slip and tell somebody else that's in the film community, and they would just be like, "Oh, you can't make a movie about that," and I'm like, "Why not?" "Well, you might offend somebody." "Well, okay, well, it's that's on me. That's not on you." So,
Right. Right. Right.
but
Right.
but I think that is the most frustrating part about filmmaking or anything. Being our artist is just you're gonna have people that are just strictly jealous. And they're because you're out wanting to do it. And I think that's the biggest thing. People, trust me, there's been a lot of there's probably been more downs than ups in my career. I will say it that way, is where people were like, you know, you can't go and interview this band. You know, they're like royalty. You know, you can't talk to them. Like they're
Mm,
huge. And then I'd turn around and I'd get a press pass and I'd set up an interview with the record label and I'd do things, and here I am sitting on a tour bus right across from them doing an interview, and they're just like, well, how'd you do that? And I'm like, because I found a way. I found a way.
you
Or if
found a
people
way.
or if people I talked to years ago, they said, I remember some guy, when I first moved out here, I told them, you know, I was just having lunch, a casual conversation, and I said, yeah, I have this film idea. I think I'm gonna like make this movie, and I think it's a great idea. And they just looked at me and they were like, no one's gonna want to watch that film. Like that's dumb. Like I'd rather watch a dog, you know, jumping out of a building, you know, landing on a trampoline or something. And I was like,
Right.
okay. But then I turned around and maybe it took me a year or two to make, but I found a way. So I think that's the most, is just trying to find positive people. And I think with social media too, it gets harder. You know, it's, hey, I got an idea. I want to do this project. Anybody want to help me? And people are always going to try to bring you down. But you know, just keep, I don't know, stay focused on the prize. You know.
Stay Definitely stay focused on the prize. And I found too that you have to have passion for this business, because it's definitely hard work. And you know it I think that the majority of people, that if you haven't been in the entertainment industry, do not understand what's involved in making a project or developing a project or even funding a project.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's hard. People will just, you know, people in, you know, that are like, hey, you know, I want to get into film, and I'm like, okay, come out on a set one day. I had one kid. He was like, I thought he had passion. He was like, for weeks, he was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. You know, I want to quit my office job and I want to get into acting and film. And I said, all right, show up on set, and we're gonna shoot this short film, and you know, you could be the lead actor, you could be the co-star of the movie. And he showed up, and then like 20 minutes later, I find him, and he's like falling asleep in this hallway, and I'm just like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. He's like, well, how long is this gonna take? And I was like, well, we're setting the lights up now. We're setting up the camera. We're gonna start with your scene in just a few minutes, and then after that, we're gonna go and we're gonna shoot another scene and another scene. And he's just like, oh my gosh, I've been here for a couple hours and we're not even done yet. And then I'm like, well, welcome to our business. You know,
Welcome
it's
to our business. You're out there for 12 hours more a day on
yeah,
your feet and constantly moving. And yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of drive, a lot of passion, and inspiration to, I think, want to create film.
yeah,
um it's not easy, and you have to be a certain kind of person and the imagination. So I find that. So let's say 10 years goes by. What do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself? What is your goal?
oh man, you know, I always, even 10 years ago, I probably said this about now, is I don't care what I'm doing as long as it has to do with, you know, making films or video camera or, you know, uh, whatever. As long as I'm still in the same field, you know, even if it was, um, you know, I think a lot has to do probably with like giving back, like what we were talking about earlier is, um, you know, because I mean, not to say I've done everything, but I have done such an array of things. I've directed music videos, I've worked on feature films, I've done commercials, I've done documentaries for PBS stations, I've done a lot of stuff where I'm just like, I think in the next 10 years, and earlier on, I would say, like, those people can't tell me what to do. But a lot of people were telling me, you should probably narrow that down a little bit. You should try to find like a focus. Like, I really do enjoy working with bands and shooting music videos because you get to be really creative with that. Short films are always fun, but they don't pay the bills. Documentaries, I was a kid that was forced in school, like you had to watch those like long boring history documentaries
Oh
where
yeah.
they're like the fall of the Roman Empire, and you're just going,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's like,
Definitely.
but it's different when you're making them because you could not make them so dull, you can make them a little bit more exciting. But yeah, I think like I just need to, in the next 10 years, maybe decide like what does Vinny really want to make? What kind of content do I want to continue putting out there that people enjoy? It does seem that I hear more feedback from my short films than I do when I used to interview bands. When I used to interview bands, it seemed like it was a lot more of not people that cared about me, or who, like, I wasn't the attention, even though I was the interviewer or the reporter or the music journalist.
Mm.
A lot of the comments were like, "Oh my god, I love that band. That band saved my life. That band is so cool. I wish I could dress like them." And I'm sitting there reading the comments like, are there any comments about like how awesome my hair is, or like how cool I look, or and it's like, no. But then when I would put out a short film, I would get like families, or I would get people that would just be like, "Hey, I really enjoyed that film. It was really funny. Like the ending was unpredictable, and I rather watch a short film than take my wife to the movies. I'd rather just watch one of your films." And I'm like, "That's
Mhm.
pretty cool." So, um, but there does come a time where you do have to like grow up and say, well, how much money am I really making out of this, and do I stick with this, or do I just go and not necessarily throw in the towel? Because I wouldn't suggest anyone doing that, because hey,
Right.
our life could end tomorrow, so you gotta like at least look back and say, hey, I enjoyed my life. And that's what it all comes down to me. Faith is really important to me. um, where it, for me, a lot of people, I get a lot of pressure being in this industry. I get
Oh
pressure
yeah.
from pressure from people that have been in the industry, and they're like, "Hey, look, kid, you've been making movies since 2004. How come you're not in Hollywood on a billboard somewhere yet?" And I'm like, because I don't want to.
Right,
Or
right,
it's like,
right.
or
Right.
it's like, "Hey, kid, I went to your Instagram. You got 20 followers. How come you don't have 20 million?" And I'm like, because I don't want 20 million followers. you know, I, like, maybe when I was a teenager, sure, that would have been so cool to have like 20 million, hot chicks all over me. But that's, but
Right.
when you get to your mid 30s, like, that's not important. Like, what's important is, you know, um, just what do you want to be known for? I want people to look back, and hopefully when I'm long gone, my videos will still be circulated on YouTube, where people can say, hey, who is that Vinny guy, and like do a YouTube search and be like, oh wow, his videos were pretty cool. Like, I mean, like, maybe 2 years ago someone asked me what was my goal, and I thought, I just want to make positive and funny and comedic movies, because there's a lot of, I mean, geez, you turn on the news today and see what's going on, and you just want to like crawl in a fetal position and cry because of all the
Right.
craziness is going on. And I
Yep.
think that's why we make movies, because whether you're an actor or you make movies or you watch movies, it's a great escape. Like, hey, I had a stressful day. What am I going to do after this interview? I'm going to pop on a movie so I can forget about how crazy or hectic my day was and just unwind. And I want people to do that when they watch my movie, where it's like, maybe they're dealing with a heartbreak or something crazy going on, and they're just like, you know what? Tonight's a good night to watch a Vinnie Langdon movie. I'm gonna pop in a Vinnie movie, and I'm gonna laugh and cry with happy tears. And I think that's like the ultimate goal. I mean, or it was for me a few years ago. But yeah, 10 years from now, I don't want to think what I'm gonna do in the next 6 months.
Perfect answer. Speaking of which, earlier you talked about film festivals, and to mention you are the founder of the Staten Island Film Festival, which I attended, which was a beautiful event, by the way. Thank you for the invite. I had a great time. Um, so tell us, like how that came about.
Yeah, well, as a filmmaker, um, I've gone to a variety of film festivals. I've gone to film festivals where there was literally 3 or 4 people in the room watching a short film, and they didn't know whether to clap or not. And then I've gone to big film festivals where they have the red carpet, they have Access Hollywood, TMZ, Hollywood News is there, and you got celebrities like Sylvester Stallone walking the red carpet, and Paris Hilton, and just to name a few. And then I've been to film
Mm.
festivals that are in between, that are like, ooh, this is fancy, but then you're like, it's kind of cheesy, or you've gone to, somewhat all different spectrums. And I never thought I would put a film festival together, nor did I really want to. Um, the idea came to me about during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I told you briefly, I am, very faith is very important to me, and so is family, genealogy, history, and all that. And my family's roots, my family's church in Staten Island, New York, has been there since about the 1640s, and with COVID pandemic and the funding and people not really attending, we were kind of afraid that the church was going to close down at one point. And I thought, well, I would like to get involved with the church some way, somehow. Um, and that is when we were talking about doing different types of fundraisers. We were like, we could do a spaghetti feed, we could do a clam bake, we could do, and I just blurted out, we could do a film festival. And then they all looked at me like I had 7 heads. They were like, huh? They're like, what's that? We're not in the film industry like you, Vinny. What is that? And I said, no, 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 no. Hear me out. We make a film festival. It's catered to like entry level filmmakers or Hollywood elites. Who cares? And we'll make money. All the money, the proceeds will go to the church. And everyone was like, ooh, money. Okay, that sounds good. So this is our 4th year. We'll be in June of 2025.
Yes.
And yeah, so again, I didn't think it was going to last more than a year. And then after the first year event, we sold out, and all the filmmakers walked up to me at the end of the night, shook my hand, and said, you have to do this next year. And I said, I do? So we did it the next year, and so far we've showcased over 50 short films from both New York and all over the world. We have films from one extreme to the next, where maybe it's a beginner filmmaker who made a movie on their phone, to somebody that shot a movie on a Hollywood backlot. So it's cool to see the variety. It inspires other filmmakers, and it helps other filmmakers to network and connect and meet other people that are in the industry, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera. There are countless number of jobs. There's makeup artists, there's costume designers, there's production photographers, there's editors, there's assistant editors, there's colorists, there's so many jobs. And I wanted to invite especially going back to like the pandemic where a lot of us lost our day-to-day jobs. So it was
Right.
refreshing to be like, hey, you know what? Here, meet so and so. They made that movie that's being shown on the screen. Maybe you guys can work together. And that was my main goal. And maybe the first couple of years it didn't really happen, but it really picked up in the last 2 years, where I was getting phone calls from actors that were like, hey, thank you, Vinny, because I attended your film festival. I met this director, and now I'm the star in their little movie. Or, this person got an editing job because of it. And I'm like, that's cool. That was the whole purpose of the festival. So that was fun.
That was definitely a cool moment to experience something like that, because that was like the first film festival at all I ever attended, and it was beyond my expectations. I felt, part of the elite. I felt important. Like, take my picture. Okay, it's all good.
Right, right. No, I guess some of those customer service jobs, in between film projects paid off because other jobs, they're like, customer service is always the key. And so it was like, okay, when people walk in the door and walk the red carpet, customer service, treat them like a celebrity. So, it's fun. We've had some actors that were on The Sopranos, some actors that were, well, I guess I wouldn't call them actors. I'd call them reality stars from MTV's Jersey Shore.
Mhm.
Um, Radio personalities from Z100 would come out, and it's just really cool because everybody's treated as is equal at the my film festival, at least, because I've gone to some where it's like, oh yeah, you can't walk up to that person. They're like they're a big movie star. And you're just like, what? Like, really? And they're like, oh, yeah, don't. And for me, it's like, turn around. You never know who. And our slogan, one of the slogans at our festival is, you never know who you're going to be sitting next to, and it's so
Right.
true because people are sitting there and they're like, oh, who's this guy? Because this guy looks pretty like well known. And then we get up on stage and we're like, oh, by the way, thanks to this person for coming out. So. But
Definitely.
yeah.
So, what do you expect for next year's festival? Like, how do
Well,
what is your goal, if anything? Any changes that you want to make? Anything that, you know,
yeah,
is
no.
important that you might have left out or wanted to do this year now that for next year?
Yeah, well, next year it's definitely going to be a little bit smaller and intimate. We're moving it to a different venue. However, the funds for this festival are still going to be going to the church. Um, and so the funds are still going to be going to the Dutch Reformed Church in Staten Island, but we're moving it to the South Shore of Staten Island, the neighborhood of New Dorp. It's going to be at the Parish House. It sits a little bit less than what we normally cater to. We have like about 240 seats at the Dutch Reformed Church, and this is going to be a little bit less than 200, maybe 150. We're thinking. And the quality of the program, we kind of want to build on the quality of the program and not necessarily like the number value. So this past year we had like 15 short films. We're probably going to cut that down to about 10. And even the short films are even going to be shorter because we got some feedback. People enjoyed all the movies. However, it is a short film festival, so people want like it just to keep going. And we would have a 3-minute movie, then we would have a 20-minute movie, then we would go back to a 1-minute movie. So we just want to
Mhm.
like keep the average to about like 10 to 15 minutes per film. Um, the award ceremony is obviously gonna get chopped down, and
Right.
but it's still going to be a great event to support filmmakers, and of course, benefit the church. The church has some rest, restoration things they're working on, and clean up with the cemetery. All that stuff costs money that, as us outsiders, we don't think about. And we're like, oh, that costs some money. It's not just water and heat. It's these little expenses that we're not thinking of, but every penny helps. So it's good. And who knows who we're gonna bring. As far as if any celebrities come or want to attend or get involved. Um, and we'll just see what happens. I'm kind of, to be honest with you, I mean, today I was actually doing some work for the festival, but for me, I just want to put it in cruise control and be like, all right, I'll see you guys in June.
When are you never not working? When are you never not working?
And
All
no,
I
no,
know is every time I talk to you, oh, I'm working on something.
yeah, yeah, no. I think this past weekend, I told myself, I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna relax. I'm gonna watch a movie, like something as simple as that. And then I ended up spending like 8 hours editing photos for an event that I took on Friday that had to be due today on Monday, and so there's always work that needs to be done, and I think when you're a one man team, someone's got to do the work. So I wish I was like Santa Claus and had a bunch of little elves working for me, but someday, hey, you know what? Maybe that's my goal in 10 years is to have a little bit of bunch of Vinny clones
There
that
you
are
go.
doing
That would
all the
help.
doing all the small work, so then I can just sit back and say, I'm gonna watch a Netflix movie for once.
That would definitely help. So before we wrap, we start wrapping up. Tell people what you're working on, what's coming out, if anything, and what your future plans are for the next project, or what type of future projects that you see yourself doing.
Oh man, can I go on a vacation yet? No. Well, so I have two short films that are about to be released. One of them, Jesse, you were an actress in, so that was cool.
Yeah.
The film is called What a Lovely Audition. I wrote the film back in 2019 after being inspired from previous acting jobs I've done, and I just wanted to do a little, like, I don't know, a little, just kind of share some like personal stories and experiences that I dealt with on different casting calls that I've been a part of over the years and kind of mix them all into one. So that film will be releasing on YouTube on September 1st, which I believe is a Sunday. So Sunday, check out my YouTube channel, subscribe if you'd like to, and you'll be notified when that comes out. I just did a 48-hour film project, which is always tough, but you have 48 hours to write, film, edit, direct, edit, put together your cast and crew. And I just did a film called Super Godfather that's going to be premiering in Sacramento, California on
Yay.
August. I think it's the 16th or the 17th, August 17th, out at the California Railroad Museum. They have a cool theater out there. If you live in California, go support my film, even though it's only like 7 minutes long. But there's like a ton of other cool short films you guys can check out. Um, but yeah, I'm there's two short films that I'd like to do before the end of the year. Um, so just follow my YouTube channel if you want to check out some of my other short films I've done. There is a ton of content. I think I have like over 2,000 videos on YouTube. Some of those are just random videos of me and my dogs, or they're short films, or they're little movies I made, or some of the interviews I did with bands over the years. So, um, yeah, check them out. I'm sure there's probably a band on the list you probably have heard of, you might like or be in love with, and you probably never heard that story before. So, go check that out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm on IMDb, I'm on YouTube. Don't really do the whole social media stuff, so if you try to send me a friend request on Facebook, I probably won't look at it ever. So, but find me on YouTube. That's the best way. You can just do a search for my name and see all the crazy videos I've done over the years and more to come.
So, what's your YouTube handle so people are able to look you up and find you?
Yeah, so just look up my name, Vinny Langdon. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
I believe the handle is yeah, I think it's just my name. So
Okay.
that's
Just
easy enough.
Vinny Langdon on YouTube. Look it up. Check him out. Great guy, very talented, and Vinny, we talked a little bit when I asked you to be a guest, and the network is looking to expand, and I wanted to handle it like a talk show, radio show, and have a free platform. And I very much thank you. You're my very first guest, so feel privileged. Yay. My buddy Vinny Langdon. All right, so
Nice.
Vinny Langdon, don't forget to check him out on YouTube. You'll see his name in lights. Look out for his shorts. What a lovely audition. and you said, "Oh yes, don't forget the Super Godfather. I promise you, you're gonna like it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Uh,
telling you, the ending will surprise you." Um, so yeah, just check him out. Check him out. Good dude, very talented.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Paralinks Network. And thank you for everybody watching. Vinny, if you just hang on 1 second while I do the closing edits, we shall go.
Awesome. Good night, Will.
Okay, Vinny, again, thank you for being my first guest. This is going to be a memorable podcast, and I'll always look out for you, buddy. All
Rock
right?
and roll.
Rock and roll. Take care. Thank you again. Good night, everybody. Don't forget, every other Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight was the premiere with Vinny Langdon III. Check him out. Vinny Langdon on YouTube. Have a good night, y'all. Thank you, Vinny.
Nice. Rock on.
Rock